back. We are going to reconvene our meeting of the Board of County Commissioners from November 14th. We're heading into our public hearing, quasi-judicial items and legislative items for this afternoon. The first item on our agenda is to accept proofs of publication. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delary, second by Commissioner Zembauer. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have two quasi-judicial hearing items on our agenda this afternoon. I'm going to go through and read our rules for public hearing, and then I know the first one we have a request to continue, and we'll take that up first. The way that we're going to operate this afternoon is that our staff will present each item that's up for consideration with a staff recommendation, and the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when presentations have finished. The applicant will then have an opportunity to make a presentation, and the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of that applicant once their presentation is complete. Members of the public who are interested in speaking on any of the items will need to fill out the yellow form that's in the lobby and identify whether you are speaking for or against the item. If you do not want to speak and you just want your comments read for the record, you can fill out the green form and staff will pass it down the dais so that each of the commissioners has an opportunity to read your comments. Speakers who wish to speak should state their name and address clearly for the record and whether you are for or against the item. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak unless you are the official spokesperson for a group, and then you'll be given 6 minutes. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity will be given once the speaker's time has expired. In accordance with our board's operating policies and procedures, section 2.175, public participation before the board, speakers shall limit their comments to the subject being considered by the board. All public comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers. The chairman may curtail repetitious comments. The clerk's office is required to retain any documents or photographs that you present to the board, so if you present it today as a part of your public comment, be prepared to leave a copy of it with the clerk. Once all the speakers are heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary, and we will then close the public hearing and put the matter in the hands of the board for consideration. Following a motion and a second, there will be discussion by the board and a vote, and commissioners who do not cast objecting votes will be considered to have voted in support of the motion. While the board welcomes comments from persons with an interest in the proceeding, Florida law does require that the board's consideration in a quasi-judicial action be supported by competent substantial evidence. Competent substantial evidence is such evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by county staff, that the applicant presents, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support their testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must ensure that a copy is left with the clerk, and they'll be included in the board's record and the proceeding in the official minutes. Has any commissioner received any oral or written communication regarding the quasi-judicial items? If so, please disclose the substance and identify the person making the communication. Commissioner Herr?
Yes, I have, and I've submitted it electronically, and I can pass it over to the clerk on paper.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I also have some meetings, and I'm going to submit it to the clerk as well.
All right.
Madam Chair, mine have been meetings on item number 34, all have been submitted electronically.
All right.
As I turned in mine electronically, and they've been on both 34 and 35, I believe.
Okay. And
Mine was only for 34, I'm sorry.
okay. And my ex parte was also on item 34, and those are submitted electronically and passed down the dais. All right. The first item that is up is Tri-State Towing, which is a PD rezone, and I believe Annie Silhouette has that item, and this is the item that is being requested for a continuance. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My name is Annie Silway, for the record, Development Services. The applicant for Tri-State Towing PD rezone asked staff for a continuance to the December 12th Board of County Commissioners meeting. The applicant has requested the continuance to meet with the owner of the Oviedo Commerce Center, which is directly north of the subject site. So staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners continue the Tri-State Towing PD rezone till the December 12th BCC meeting. That
right.
concludes.
All right. Any questions on the, no? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak?
No.
Okay. No one here has a form filled out for item 34 for the continuance. All right, fabulous. I was just double checking. I've been caught before. Commissioners, is there a motion for the continuance?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this item to the December 12th meeting in the afternoon as requested by the applicant.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Delary, a second by Commissioner Zembauer. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Item number 35 is a Board of Adjustment appeal that's going to be presented by Angie Gates.
Good afternoon, Angie Gates, planner with Development Services. Item number 35 is a request to appeal the Board of Adjustment decision to deny the request for 1, a side yard west setback variance from 10 feet to 2.5 feet, and 2, a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 3 feet for a shed in the R1AA single-family dwelling district, and more particularly known as 149 Academy Oaks Place. On May 24th, 2023, the Seminole County Building Department issued a notice of code violation 23-105, for the installation of a 240 square foot shed without the required permit. After speaking to staff in the Planning and Development Office, Mr. John was informed that the necessity for 2 variances would be required. And on May 31st, 2023, the variance application was submitted, and on August 28th, 2023, the request was heard by the Board of Adjustment and denied. Mr. John filed a notice to appeal on September 11th, 2023, which brings us before you today. Based on the information, findings, and conclusions included and referenced in the agenda memorandum prepared in association with the original action taken by the Board of Adjustment at its meeting on August 28, 2023, and the testimony presented at the aforementioned meeting, staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners uphold the decision of the Board of Adjustment to deny the request. This concludes my presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Gates? No?
Not now.
Is the appellant here, and do they wish to make a presentation?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all
I did
right.
not click through the, I'll click through if you wanted to talk to the applicant.
Where is the applicant? Yep. All right, come on forward if you would, and you can present your case.
Thank you. I have 6 minutes, correct?
No, this is your appeal.
Okay.
You want to keep it brief
Thank
because you
you.
might lose our attention at some point.
Trust me, I'm in theater. I completely understand that.
Well, then you will keep us entertained. We'll be fine.
To the Board of Commissioners, I come before you seeking your permission for a variance for an existing shed on my property, a structure born out of necessity after a hurricane ravaged our previous shed several years ago. In good faith, I proceeded with replacing it, and aware of the permitting requirements as it was a replacement. And our community is not governed by an HOA. My neighbor, located at 155 Academy Oaks Place, Miss Elizabeth Ann Roy, who initially reported and raised concerns primarily about the roof overhang, has since acknowledged our efforts in addressing and rectifying the issue amicably, stating that she has no issue with the shed. She was mostly concerned about the overhang, and that issue, again, has been fully addressed. That conversation with my neighbor has healed our 9-year relationship. With the decision to expand and improve the shed was driven by a genuine need for a more resilient structure. Given the past hurricane damage, this expansion was not an attempt to flout regulations, but a conscious effort to enhance the property's resilience. I genuinely believe I was acting in accordance with the situation at hand. Acknowledging the oversight, I now am seeking the necessary variance and permits, fully committed to complying with all regulations moving forward. I must note the financial strain incurred by my family in addressing this issue has been significant, and it has completely hindered the learning process in my department at the university, as the shed has been designed to store our props and major set pieces. As we earnestly wish to bring this matter to a close, the intention is not to skirt the rules, but to rectify the situation properly, allowing us to complete the shed project and return to a sense of normalcy in our lives. I am sincerely committed to rectifying the situation and appreciate your consideration in bringing this matter to a fair and just resolution. Thank you, Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Zembauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate you being here today. Question.
Yes, sir.
The shed that you indicated, this was a replacement for the previous shed. Was there a permit for the previous shed or the original shed?
No, it was the basic structure that had just been there. When we got there, we put just some things to keep basic stuff in, and that was what was damaged. And I can't remember. We moved in 2014. We moved there in 2014. I don't remember even when we bought the structure, to be quite honest. But in my research, even then, it said, at the time, that was well under 100 feet. It was just a structure, and it said no permitting was necessary, so I never sought after that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Herr, and then Commissioner Delarey.
Yes, madam.
Sir, the size of the shed before?
It was more just the length of, I don't know the exact size. It was just something I bought from the Lowe's, and so it was not even, I guess, my height here, and it was just really wide. It was mainly just, I said, like, it opened up. I wish I'd have brought pictures. It just opened up in the front. I don't know the size.
So kind of a
exactly.
plastic.
Right, right.
Like the trash can bins, sort of the
Kind of thing,
Rubbermaid that you
wide.
snap together. So
yes.
that's not a shed, right?
Yeah. Well, I consider it a shed.
It's a storage
Yes.
bin. Okay. And the size of
It was purchased as a shed.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, the size of the, because it indicates here that it expanded to be larger, so it's now more than 200 square feet?
Correct. And it's as pictured there.
Okay.
On the, Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Delarey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have any photos of the old shed that we can actually see what it
I
looks
did
like?
not bring any, no, I did not bring anything like that.
Okay. So you have no documentation with you to show you what the existing conditions were on any way so that we can see its replacement?
No, I could probably find something if necessary.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, if we have any other questions, we'll call you back up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public here who wish to speak?
Yes, we have two. First is Mitchell Kraus, and then Travis Roy.
Mr. Kraus, if you would, I know your address is protected, so
Sure.
we know where you live.
My name is Mitchell Kraus. I live with my wife at 137 Academy Oaks Place in Altamont Springs, Florida, 32714. I am the homeowner that, if you looked at the home, I would be two houses over. I'm here, I don't know if it's in support of what the board did or against it. I don't know. I would like the board to issue the variance. The structure that we're looking at is not detrimental to the homeowners in the area. It's a nice structure. There are other, I think, homeowners that have similar structures like this. I see it when I pull up in the drive. My street faces the street. When you drive up, faces the front of his house, and so it's off to the side, and so you see it. It's not a nuisance. It's not any problems. Looking at it, it's a fine structure. I'd ask you to consider overturning the board. What I will tell you, though, I'm a little concerned is, I got a notice for the original Board of Adjustment meeting, and they got moved, and I never got another notice that they had moved it. And so I didn't go to that hearing. And I tell you I didn't go because I never got the letter. I got the first letter telling me it was on one date, and then they, moved it and had it on I think it was on the 14th originally, and then later I found out it got moved to the 28th, and I never got a letter in the mail indicating that it got moved. But I will tell the board I wasn't there because I didn't get notice. I intended to be there on the 14th, and then was told it was moved, but never told what it moved to. The Homeowners Association, to correct the applicant, there actually was a owners created, but it doesn't do anything. It is not in existence. So it's kind of a weird thing. There are rules and regulations, but there's nobody to enforce it. There's no actual homeowners association. So, but I'd ask you to consider approving the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Any questions? Commissioner Delarey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since you live in the neighborhood, you said 2 doors down, was there a shed there prior, to your knowledge? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, do you know it's...
Well, I would term it a shed, yes, there was a shed there.
Was it a storage bin, or was it a shed?
Define storage bin by shed. It was just...
Tomato, tomato.
My recollection was a storage bin is a thing that is low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This was up.
Okay.
And again, my recollection, it was like a plastic thing, but it was up above
Okay.
the what you call a storage bin. Like at Lowe's, you go and see, and it's maybe
Thank you. You made it
6
clear.
feet by 3 feet. This was bigger than that, and it was taller. So I always thought it was a shed.
Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. You can have a seat. It's the
Travis Roy.
Mr. Roy? State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Travis Roy. Address is 155 Academy Oaks Place, Altamont Springs 32714. Looking at that house, I'm right to the right, so I look into it. Be happy to pass down some photos as well. Oh, that's good. Yeah, no, I'm good. I see it all the time. I don't need the pictures. So,
Thank you.
I just want to start off and say rules are rules, and not knowing the rules is not an excuse for rules, okay? I'll first also highlight that my wife, my legal wife, I'm a legal owner of that place, does not approve of this. What he said is that they may have agreed on a few things, but she has not approved this. She has not written a letter, an agreement. I'm here representing her as her, husband, so I don't know where that came from. Second of all, this all started, if you look at the photos, it slopes into my yard. The eave was right on their fence line, so when it rains, all the water flowed into my backyard. So I guess when the permitting people came out and I guess shut them down, they cut off the eave. You can see a picture in there of their unlicensed contractor cutting the eave off. And so now it's flat, and I guess they thought that was going to rectify it. You also see a picture of me, a photo of how close it is to my fence. I mean, I have lived there before they did. I was friends with a person who lived there before. There was no concrete structure back there to hold a shed, a bin, whatever we want to classify this as. I see it. There was no structure that I could see here 6 years ago, I got a new fence. It was taken down. I could see in the backyard. There may be one of those bins that goes about this high to here that you can put some sports equipment in, but there's no shed back there on that structure. There was an umbrella that I could see and some chairs and some patio stones. Then all of a sudden, this structure, which is not a shed in legal terms, it's a structure, has now been popped up with no permitting. He already said in front of the Board of Adjustments that he had some friends do it that were not licensed. So the way it's structured right now, I don't know if it's hurricane safe. The way it's leaning, the way the roof line is, that's going to be in my backyard if we have a major storm. I can also say, he said at the Board of Adjustment meeting that his shed had been, torn up by a hurricane. Well, every hurricane that's happened in the last 5 to 7 years, we've all, as all y'all have, dumped all your stuff out in the front. There was no shed out there. There was no structure that had been demolished by a hurricane, or I would have seen it. So this is a new structure that's been put up by an unlicensed contractor. That's an eyesore. You notice that no one here that actually sees it is here in agreeing in it. So I don't know what else can be said other than your Board of Adjustment agrees that it's not right to have that in your backyard.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Roy? If you have a seat, and then if anyone has any questions, we'll call you back up.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Before we go back to the applicant for any rebuttal that he may have, I just want to make sure that we're clear whether the structure is there or not, or what was there before or not. There was no permit and there was no variance requested for it to be this close to the property line.
Correct.
So what we're here for today is an appeal of the setback.
Yes.
So as much as the structure versus shed versus bin
Right.
discussion is very, we can do that all
No
day
matter
long.
what
That's
was there
not,
before,
that-
yes.
that's not,
It's just
but
the
that's not why we're
setback
here.
variance
Got it.
for the side
Okay.
and rear.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Would you please come, if you have anything you'd like, you don't have to come up again, but you are certainly welcome to rebut anything that was said. It's just not an opportunity for a new presentation.
I appreciate that. I didn't realize I was necessarily in the court of law.
Well, this is a
trying
quasi.
to justify
Sir,
myself.
this is called a
for-
quasi-judicial
Yes.
hearing, which means
Yes.
it is judicial, which is law.
Okay,
So, yeah.
so being that I'm in the court of law of its kind, I do respect that. I'm just really confused why I'm being looked at. People are looking over my fence. I mean, my fence has been up since the day I moved in practically. So I don't know how anyone could have peeked over my fence to see what structures I have in my yard. I find that to be quite offensive, quite honestly. And to question my integrity, I find that to be even more offensive. And I just want to throw that out there. As far as the people who helped me build my shed, the last time I checked, I have an EDD as well as an MFA, and the people that came to help me were all, they may not be licensed contractor, but we obviously know what we're doing, been building sets for 30 plus years. The safety of the home, everything's been hurricane proof, but why am I even telling you this? Because once if it's approved, don't people come out and check all the safety and those kinds of things? That's why I sought after the permit. And I've explained myself in the letter as I didn't know, and so I don't need to continue to apologize for something I didn't know. I've made that very clear. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Board, Commissioners. Is there anything while I'm standing here?
There may be something that will come up later, but right now I think we're okay.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you.
Staff, I'm sure there will be questions.
Okay.
Yeah,
You ready?
I don't, anything, Commissioner Constantine, this is your district, and then
Yes.
Commissioner Zembauer.
Well, thank you. Angie, would you please come up, please? Okay. I read the report, listened to everybody, read the report and the minutes of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Tell me why the staff is wants to uphold or is in support of upholding the denial.
Because the variance criteria was not met.
Could you
Plain
walk
and
us
simple,
through
huh?
that?
Yes.
Explain that.
Let me get mine.
You mean the 6 parts?
The 6 parts, yes. More so, the applicant created their own hardship by not receiving a building permit or seeking variance prior to putting up the shed. And they could have made it smaller.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Constantine? Okay, Commissioner Zembauer?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. It was said up here, the only thing we're here about is a variance. Got that. But in addition to that, it's my understanding, notwithstanding the variance, there was never a permit pulled to build the structure, period, regardless if it was in the right place or not.
Correct.
So there's actually two issues here underlying with the building permit.
Yes, they don't meet the setbacks.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I
else.
have a
Good.
couple of questions. Based on personal experience, having erected a shed-type structure that houses chickens, and it's not a bin, it's, I don't know what it is.
It's a chicken coop.
It's a chicken coop that kind of looks like a shed, I don't know, because it had to be cute. So the first thing we did was we had to look at what the setbacks were, because we knew we couldn't put chickens right up next, or a shed or whatever, right up next to our neighbor's property line. That was, we knew that was something we couldn't do. So the first thing we did was we asked to see what that setback was and if we would need to request a variance. And then, did the process for whatever building permit was required. And I think we actually designed it specifically so that we wouldn't need a building permit. We made it small enough so that we wouldn't have to go through that process. I'm in a unique situation in that I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, right? And so while ignorance of the law is not an excuse, I do think we're trying to do two things. I think we're trying to make sure that the neighbors have a structure that is set back far enough from their property line that is reasonable, in compliance, hopefully, with what the setbacks are, which are what in this neighborhood? In this zoning, the setback would be what? How many feet?
On the sides, it would be 10, and in the rear, it would, for this size structure, would be 30.
Okay, so a 10-foot side and a rear 30, and right now it is 2 and 2?
2.5 and 3.
2.5 and 3. So if the structure were to be moved to be 30 feet in and 10 feet in, it would be probably not in a place where they would want it in their backyard. I recognize that.
I'm not sure it would fit.
But if they were to request a variance that would move it from 2.5 and 3, which would be more acceptable in my mind, that would, the way that the structure is built now, would it have to be completely deconstructed and reconstructed, or could it be moved?
I could not answer that question.
You haven't seen it?
I have only seen it in pictures, but I don't know by code how you would have to take things down or put them up. I don't know if it could be taken apart without being destroyed. I'm sure there's a way. I can't answer that.
Okay. Could I ask the applicant, if you don't mind coming back up? And Commissioner Constantine, I know this is your district, so I will give you deference, but I just want to make sure I understand what the thought process is here. Just let me ask the question
Yes, ma'am.
first. So is the building, the way it's structured now, able to be rolled to another place? Or is it fixed onto a platform, to a foundation?
It is fixed to the foundation.
Okay, like
because we-
concreted in?
Yes, because we were keeping in mind a hurricane, it's been fixed according to hurricane rules and stuff. That we did read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if this board were to give you a variance different than what you're requesting and just to have you move it in further, is that something that you would?
May I can answer that for you. So it would be, so the house is like here, and currently where it is close to the fence. It's, here. If we moved it, it would be right up on the house. And that's why I didn't, I was just looking obviously at the aesthetics as well.
I think what you may be heading toward is, though, an option of having to take it down entirely. or maybe be flexible. I'm not sure where you're headed, but, all right, I just wanted to see if it was movable. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Constantine? You could, if you would have a seat, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I think that we hate to see these things come up because we know that somebody's going to leave here, unsatisfied. But the fact of the matter is that the Board of Zoning Appeals looked at this, and it's not often that they feel that the problem is, and the situation is so egregious that they deny it. In this case, they did feel that. The 2.5 from 10 feet and the 3 feet from 30, I also, Commissioner Lockhart, were thinking maybe we could move it and do something, find a, split the difference. But in this case, you can't, and you can also see that, the overhangs right into the other yard above the fence. It frankly, again, there is, I wish there was some way that we could, find a solution for all, but in this case, I think that the only decision that can be made is that we uphold the Board of Adjustment's decision to deny the request. And I could read the whole thing, but that pretty much that's my motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I neglected to close public comment. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Not you, Mr. Julius, I'm sorry. All right, we'll close the public comment. We're under discussion.
I concur, and I understand what the chair lady's thought process and the district commissioner. The reality is this is, I don't paraphrase this quite frankly as a shed. This is more of a permanent type structure. You could call it, I guess, a detached shed, garage, whatever, but it's obvious it is poured concrete. It is obvious it's got some structural integrity to it. Probably does meet hurricane code from the looks of it, and it's very unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we have two entities before it comes to us, which is the Board of Adjustment, as well as our own staff that says, this is not like we can move it 5 feet or some kind of nuancing, and it's very unfortunate because as I look at the site plan of this home, there's not a whole lot of room that you can actually put a shed. I mean, looks like you could probably meet the setbacks, but it's going to be right in the middle off the corner of his house and off to what appears to be a deck area, textured deck. But unfortunately, that's why we do have guidelines and regulations to follow. And I would agree if we could bend them somewhat a little bit to get there, but I think this one's too far, too deep to get there, is why I'm voting in favor of the commissioner's
All right.
position.
So there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Gates, would you be willing to work with Mr. Julius and see if he were to start this process and applying for a variance and see what his options may be?
Yes.
After? Okay?
Of course.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify that?
Yes.
That's applying for a variance that's not the same exact thing that came before us today, to be clear.
Correct.
So
Sure,
this
yeah,
is
he's-
about moving it away from the lines.
It's going to have to be taken down. And then if they need a structure in the backyard and they need to start over, acknowledging that 10 feet and 30 doesn't work for their property, they're going to have to come in and start that variance process, right? because maybe they do want a shed, but they can do it 10 feet and 10 feet. Maybe that's something they would like to apply for, or maybe they want to
And
move
at that
it.
point, it wouldn't need a variance.
Well,
Right.
but it would.
If it's under 200 square feet, they don't need a variance at all.
But maybe they don't want it to be 30 feet setback, maybe they wanted a 10-foot setback. That would require a variance. So I'm just saying, I don't know what your ultimate goals are, but I think there's something else that perhaps you could work with our staff to come up with whatever round 2 might be.
And my purpose for
that fair?
clarifying was that so you don't do this all over again, going down the path to think that it's going to end up where it is.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gates.
All right.
All right, our next item is a legislative public hearing, item number 36, which is the adoption of the Rice Lake MSBU, and this is going to be presented by Tamika Morton.
Good afternoon, Tamika Martin, Financial Manager, MSBU Program. So item 36 offers board consideration to adopt an ordinance creating Municipal Services Benefit Unit Assessment District to provide funding for lake management services on behalf of Rice Lake, which is located in Commission District 5. The request for establishing this MSBU was initiated by the community application. The standard petitioning process that was conducted by our department got a 74.2% in favor of BCC creating this MSBU. That exceeded the 65% threshold. The assessment boundary of the proposed MSBU consists of 31 waterfront homes. Each of them will get one benefit unit. They'll be assigned a benefit unit. All the properties are located within unincorporated Seminole County. And this MSBU consists of 2 phases, Phase 1, which is the capital phase, and Phase 2, which is the variable phase. Phase 1 refers to the initial restoration services, and Phase 2 refers to ongoing lake management services. The estimated cost of Phase 1 is $104,200. The payment source for this would be a $20,000 contribution from the general fund. This will come from the Public Works Department budget. And a fund advance of approximately $84,200 will be coming from the MSBU program project funds. Based on this information, we've estimated that the annual assessment for Phase 1 will be about $787.05 for the next 5 years for each home. The estimated annual cost for Phase 2, we are looking at $432.50 per parcel. This is based on a projection, a 5-year projection that we've made for contracted services. And Phase 1 estimated assessment, it is a fixed assessment based on the actual costs that will be presented in the future at an upcoming board after those services have been completed. While Phase 2 is a variable rate assessment, it is subject to change annually according to the site conditions and the budgeted expenses. Both estimates that I listed before are inclusive of interest and MSBU admin fees, and will be levied annually via the tax bill. So following public input, the action requested is for the board to approve and for the chairman to go ahead and execute the ordinance creating this MSB for Rice Lake. This concludes my introduction of this item. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Morton? Commissioner Zambauer?
Rice Lake, is it a 100% private access lake?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Do you know if we dump our stormwater into it?
I don't, but, oh, yes. Thomas
Head nod,
Calhoun,
yes.
Sure we do.
All right. Any other questions? No? Commissioner Hurd, this is in your district, I believe. Are there any members of the public here who wish to speak?
Yes, we have one, Mr. Gomez.
Okay, Mr. Gomez, if you would, come up and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon to the board. My name is Matias Gomez. I live at 28 Windsor Isle Drive, as with my family and the rest of the lake neighbors. I just want to start off by thanking Mr. Michael, Ms. Tamika, Ms. Michelle, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Tony. This has been a pretty long process, but they've made it as easy as possible. It's just been a phenomenal journey to get to where we're going. We bought the house about 6 years ago, and my grandparents lived on the lake before that. it's one of those lakes that is a small lake. No one really knows who we are. I've lived across the street for it my whole life and didn't even know it was there until we moved in with my grandparents, and obviously, but definitely a lot of old families and a lot of old times in that little lake, but it was covered in weeds, very neglected, and then we tried multiple different companies, assuming the lake doctors. We've had Lake Med as well. There's some local companies, and the projects and the budgets, and they just continuously kept raising prices and taking advantage of us. And they knew that we had no other option, so they kept going upon it. And I finally came to the assessment that I, as a person, could not afford it, and neither could the neighbors. So I took it upon myself, and with a couple other liaisons, and I started the process. And we are here today to hope that this goes through. Everybody on the lake that we spoke to has approved it. The few, I think it was only 6 others that we didn't get, they're vacation homes. They aren't there very often, and we try to get a hold of them. But everybody that has did sign. We have a group chat of 28 people. Everybody has been appointed me and is excited to get the final result of what's going to happen today. But I don't mean to take any more time of the board, but I hope this goes well, and I appreciate you guys for all your time. Thank you for your services.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Is that it?
Any other members of the public to speak? No? We'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Hurd? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, sure. If you have something to say, you probably need to grab this yellow form before you leave and fill it out for us, but you can come on up now and just make sure you fill it out before you go. Just state your name and address for the record.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name's George Calvi. My wife Carol Calvi and I are here today. We live at 23 Stonegate North in the Ravensbrook subdivision. We've lived there for 30 years. We've seen quite a bit of growth in homes on the lake. And over the years, we've spent quite a bit of money on maintaining the lake, whether it was the whole lake, portions of the lake, depending upon who was there at what time. We did everything we could. And I would estimate I have spent personally in those 30 years, at least $25,000 to $30,000. It's been frustrating as some of the new structures have come in, especially those mansions on the Markham Woods roadside that are worth, I'm sure today, anywhere from $7 to $10 million. The difficulties we've had even getting them to contribute $400 or $500 a year. Yet they seem to enjoy the heck out of the lake because they have all kinds of equipment right on the lake. So what it comes down to, when we learned that this program was available, as taxpayers, we believe that this would be good for us, it's fair, and at the same time would involve everyone who lives on the lake, rather than this kind of selective, herky-jerky kind of, I got you this year, but next year you weren't here, or I'm not paying this year, I did last year. It's really unfair to those who do pay. And on the other hand, it's something that helps the county because it gives those of us who live there the opportunity to not just enjoy the lake, but of course it increases the value of all homes. As the value of all homes goes up, well, so does our assessment. Our assessment goes up, we pay greater taxes. And as you can see by the proposal, we're willing to pay quite a bit of money to kick it off, and also pay a fair amount of money year by year in order to maintain it. So we hope you'll agree with us, but we think it's not only fair, but something that ultimately benefits both the county and those residents that live on the lake. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we want to grab this yellow form right here, if you would, and just make sure you hand that back before you leave. Thank you. I will say we have dear friends Jennifer and Eric Duncan who live in Ravensbrook and live on Rice Lake. Yep, and we've spent some time on Rice Lake, and it is beautiful. It has been very weedy. And your story is very similar to the ones that we've heard from lakes all across this county. And I will also give kudos to Mr. Calhoun and his team. They do an excellent job. And we do have a great asset in this lake management program, and the opportunity to use the MSBU funding mechanism is being taken advantage of by lots of lakefront property owners, and we're thrilled about that. So, Commissioner Herr?
Chairman, I never really thought I'd get to say this, but in an effort to eliminate herky-jerky, I'll make the following motion, and then I have a couple of thank yous, that we adopt the ordinance creating the Rice Lake Lake Management Municipal Services Benefit Unit, and the preliminary capital assessment role for Phase 1 MSBU services, and the initial variable rate assessment role for Phase 2 MSBU services.
Second.
The motion by Commissioner Herr, second by Commissioner, tied it up down there, Zembauer. Any further discussion?
I just want to give a shout out to the neighbors that dug in and did this. Our team is wonderful, but it takes two partners to make these happen, and we very much appreciate you as citizens stepping forward. And I love the concept that it's going to be shared more equally in terms of the burden, because the benefit is certainly shared equally. So it is a great thing when this happens. We appreciate you.
Congratulations. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Another MSBU. Yeah.
Enjoy the lake.
We all benefit from clean water.
Amen to that.
Our next item is item number 37, and it is a Sunrail transition update from Deputy County Attorney Paul Chipak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Paul Chipak, Deputy County Attorney. In regards to Sunrail, by way of background, the local government partners are now coordinating with FDOT and Links to craft an operations phasing agreement in which the financial transition from FDOT to the Central Florida, the CFCRC would occur first, and then the operations transition would occur incrementally over the following 3 years. The transition to the CFCRC and the operating entity that eventually runs Sunrail would be Links.
Mr. Chipak?
Yes.
Before you go much further, I know you've created a PowerPoint. Do you want those slides showing while you're speaking?
Not necessarily. The PowerPoint is what will be presented at the CFCRC meeting on Thursday.
It's okay. Thank you.
So it's mainly background for your
I was
information.
panicking for you because your slides weren't on the screen, but they weren't your slides, so never mind. I'm sorry for interrupting
Okay.
you.
At the November 16th CFCRC meeting, FDOT has requested formal direction from the CFCRC board regarding endorsement by that board of the concept to pursue the operations phasing agreement for the transition of Sunrail from FDOT to the CFCRC. The staffs at FDOT and the local government partners have been working jointly over several months on this project already, but we've had no formal approvals from the CFCRC, and DOT hasn't made a formal commitment either. So FDOT wants to make the arrangement more formal so that all the work effort is legitimate and moves forward. With this, there's threshold issues. County staff's understanding of the prior Board of County Commissioners' direction is that Seminole County supports the development of the operations phasing agreement. And along with that, there is acknowledgement that the system's operating deficit under the current operating documents is the ultimate responsibility of the local government partners, and if not paid by the local government partners, will come out of the FDOT District 5 work program that is allocated to other projects in the District 5. Also, the current operational governance documents must be amended prior to entering into the operation phasing agreement to address the system operating deficit responsibility. The documents will be revised to remove the annual maximum deficit, operating deficits, and the 5-year work program that already exists anticipates the annual cost prospectively. So to have a listing of the annual deficit in the document for budgeting purposes is not necessary. That information exists elsewhere. The Sunrail consultant, WSP, needs to finish the transition consulting report, transition plan report. For WSP to do this, direction from the local government partners is needed to acknowledge that negotiations with Lynx as the operating entity still needs to occur. These negotiations with Lynx will result in the operating agreement. That operating agreement must still be approved by each of the local government partners. It will come back before you individually and each of the local government partners, and then also to the CFCRC board prior to Lynx being installed as the operating entity. And again, if terms cannot be reached, then we need to look for other alternatives, but we need to commence work on that agreement with Lynx at this point in time to know how an operating agreement would work and to find out what we don't know today. The next item is the work continues with the Local Government Partners Steering Committee and FDOT to resolve the key negotiating points. These are the same negotiating points that you've been briefed on for several years, and the report on the negotiating point status is provided in your backup material. And then finally, on a separate but related item, FDOT is holding a series of public meetings to discuss the transit concept and alternative review TCAR for the Sunshine Corridor. The Sunshine Corridor is the east-west connection from the airport to South I Drive. So they are having a series of public meetings to discuss alternatives of how that route could potentially look. So that's still very early in the planning process, but they are moving forward to public meetings. And I've distributed a schedule of those meetings to you independently, so if any of you are interested in that. And with that, again, that's our understanding of the prior board direction to us, and if there are any questions from the commissioners, we're here to answer them.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've had these conversations with our county staff, as well as the county manager, county attorney, as well as what the statements I'm going to make, I've had at the Sunrail board meeting as well. And if you disagree with me, Paul, I'm giving you the ability to contradict me if there is something that needs to be contradicted. I've mentioned many times that the original contract was for a total of $8 million from all 5 funding partners, and now it's up to $45 million. I'd like to understand how that dollar figure has grown. I've asked for transparency for it and details, and I've asked many times, a few times at the board meeting of Sunrail, and I think that needs to be addressed during this transition negotiation. Is that correct, Paul, that I've mentioned that several times?
That is correct,
And
and
I've not
that is a
seen-
valid request.
And I've seen no information at this time. The other thing is that in the discussions at that meeting, we've always discussed burn-in or operational time of the last section of the Sunrail corridor, which is up in DeLand, and I really believe this agreement should be dated so 1 year after the completion of the DeLand portion, which should be sometime in May of 2025, but I think that's also just as important. We've always talked about that completion time and actually able to run it. And to be fair to the system, I think 1 year after the completion of the DeLand, because it's still in construction presently, that we need to make sure that it's coexistence of the 1 year time after completion of that piece. When it comes to links, I understand that we need to negotiate, and one of the reasons why is because Volusia County is right now not a part of links, and I need to make sure that that is somehow appropriately addressed so that the administrative cost is addressed with Volusia, so we're not paying their portion of the admin cost. And then when it comes to the Sunshine Corridor from the airport, either to the convention center or to the theme parks, that is a totally separate agreement, not part of the original agreement with the 61.5 miles of Sunrail. And so I'm looking forward to see how that would relate to Sunrail and, more importantly, the ridership. I've not yet seen any ridership numbers. Have you seen those ridership numbers yet, Paul?
Specifically, I have not, but I believe that they are in the process of preparing them. I don't think
Be
they're
curious to see
ready.
how it's going to affect, because it will affect positively for the Sunrail corridor, getting to the airport, getting to convention. And it's not just the airport, it's also the convention, also the theme park. So I want to make sure we're not just looking at just the airport portion, that we're looking at the entire Sunshine Corridor piece of it. That's just as important. I fully support doing this in stages, but I think that these points need to be addressed, and they need to be conveyed through our staff, through the working group, before we can agree with something. That'd be my comments, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Zambauer?
I won't go over everything that Commissioner Laurie has just articulated. Mine are very similar to that, but mine are a little more hardened and have actually developed through the years based on what it appears that my fellow commissioners' desire is, which the last time we had this conversation, it's my understanding that we've agreed that we own it at some point. And I think at the end of the day, if you want some real brain cells to be dead, go back and read the original, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and the Fifth Amendment. This contract is so far out of contract from the original contract, it's ridiculous. Many of our residents were not happy with the original contract. Now here we are, many years later, 5 or 6 times the money that we anticipated to pay. And so my sticking point is, if we agree that we're going to take this light rail mass transportation project and own it like we agreed to, and we're not going to stick with the original contract, I am not interested in doing anything until the land is done and Volusia County has an agreement to move forward with the rest of the partners with links. That's my sticking points. That said, I'm not so sure how long it's going to take to work through this agreement, because my count, there are 7 government entities involved with this that might push us down the road another several years.
Could be.
I don't know. The multiple counties, the city, you got links, you got DOT.
Right.
There's a lot of government fingers in the pot here that all have to come to agreement. So, you know, it went from, it cost more to print the ticket than the fare to ride it, and all those things. And I think our last agreement here was we were sort of putting that behind us and trying to move forward. But for me, it's a hard no until Volusia County Station's done. That's the one part of the contract that I think we should uphold.
Any other questions, or Commissioner Herr?
Well, let's just provide some clarity around that. Does anybody on our team, when is Volusia County scheduled to be done?
At this point, the projections are, I believe, June of 2024.
You nodding yes, John? Because John was about to get up, so there's a nod yes behind you. Okay, so that's June of 2024, and we're talking about a 3-year transition plan, and we're sitting at November of 2023. So the question of it being done before this happens is already resolved, right? Now, you know,
Not really. It depends
things
upon-
can blow up, but
Right.
what I heard from Commissioner Zimbauer when it's done, I heard from you a year after it's done. In both of those instances, if it's done according to when they think it's going to be done,
It's covered.
it's covered. I just want to make sure we're all thinking that through in terms of the timeline, because it's sounding like we're objecting, but the timeline that's out there, it's happening concurrently. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, but I don't agree with that.
Okay.
So
That's
mine
why I'm
is
asking.
very clear, 1 year, the original contract said 1 year after
No,
No.
Volusia,
that's not
with
what
the
it said.
burn.
no. The original contract said 7 years.
Well, yeah, okay.
The original contract said 7 years after
The
completion of
later.
the system.
Right.
The discrepancy is DOT has taken operation of the system to mean from the beginning of operation of Phase 1, which was in 2014. So their position is they should have transitioned in 2021.
Right.
Our position is it's 7 years operation of the system. The system is not complete yet because the Phase 2 North from DeBerry to DeLand has not been constructed yet and is not in operation. So that would be, the other extreme position is transition should occur 7 years after the DeLand station is built. But again, no, the local government partners have not been advocating for another 7 years of operation. We're looking for some type of happy median.
That's why I said 1 year after it's completed.
But 1 year after it's completed is nowhere in any documents, just so I understand it.
Correct.
That's just an
Personal
idea.
preference.
Correct. There is
a concept.
There is a industry concept that when you build a system like this, there is a termed a burn-in period to work out the kinks, to get the scheduling right, to make sure all the equipment is operating correctly, and that's usually about a 1 year period.
So let's talk through that. It's a 1 year period after operational?
After they start operations, yes.
Okay,
After they're
and
cleared for
so
operation.
and that's where I think.
That's DeLand.
I don't know that you need a year, and I'm just talking this
Sure.
through. I'm
No,
not
understood.
saying that I disagree with you. This has all been, it's just, this is no fun.
Oh,
Let me
trust
just
me.
say.
That's
But-
right.
But you don't need a year to figure out the scheduling for an extension. DeLand is the tip of the tail of the dog, not even the tail of the dog. It's just going a little bit further from DeBerry.
Correct.
So it's not, and it's this and this. That is all this system does. It doesn't do any of this yet. So that's not a schedule. Like I don't know that we're going to prevail in those arguments, especially with the timeline. So where I am, I was leading all that to say, I truly do think that we really need to lean in on figuring out how to collaborate to have this become the best possible outcome it can be. That's already started in terms of they're now addressing the ticketing system that has apparently been terrible for 7 years, but we ignored it, however many years it's been.
We didn't ignore it.
Well, we complained about it, but they ignored it because we didn't own it.
It was the royal we.
It was the royal we. I would rather get it turned over and let us run the daggum thing. We have all said that government closer to the locality is better. But in this instance, we want to slow it down and let FDOT continue to run a train system that they never wanted to run long-term. And that's what worries me.
Yeah, I'm not interested in having FDOT continue to run it. I'm interested in having it completed first, as it was initially said.
Right.
If it takes 1 year, according to the group, to run in and work through all the kinks, that's when I'm fine taking over. Once that's completed, DeLand's done, they've had their year of burn-in, recheck, adjust, whatever, and say, hey, we're confident everything's fine, we can turn it over to y'all. That's where my year comes in, on top of the 7 and the 14 and the other previous that were there before. Again, that's all water over the dam.
Yep.
But to me, if it's going to be a year to burn in, then we should make sure till it's complete, and then the burn-in's complete, then we can take it over.
That's it.
So we've had some briefings. Mr. Gray and I have had an opportunity to meet with Secretary Tyler and some other folks just to kind of, because Commissioner DeLauro, you're the only person who sits on this CFCRC, and so when we get our information, from a variety of sources, I just want to make sure that we are answering the question that's being asked, because there's a lot of history. I'm married to a man who continues to call Sunrail a boondoggle, right? So I get it, right? I know. And Bill Hyde will say, yep, boondoggle, right? Okay, so we get all that. Yep, thumbs down. I got you. So coming from that perspective, we still need to move forward. And what's best, I think, for this region and for our community is that we get it together and move forward. And what I what I still think we're being asked today is to give direction to our staff to move forward with next steps. Now, granted, some next steps require probably licking some old wounds, but there is a partnership, and there are other partners, and we don't get to dictate to the entire group. So we may have our preferences, but our staff has to know where their negotiating points are, because to come in as a staff member with a hard and fast, my board is telling me only 1 year after DeLand is complete, that may put them odd man out and give them no flexibility to negotiate whatsoever, and hold everything up, because my understanding is there has to be unanimity in this thing. And I don't want to be, frankly, I don't want to be the organization that holds this whole thing up for an entire region because we were insistent on this 1 year that's not written anywhere after taking over DeLand. So for clarity, we're being asked to modify and update the existing agreement. Is that correct? You all as a team are going to have to modify and update the existing agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, primarily to remove the existing maximum operating deficit. Okay, and then also to do other minor cleanups, because if we're doing the phase-in agreement, some of transitioning from FDOT to the operating entity may be inconsistent with some of the language in the system or in the current operating agreement. So we're just making sure we're not creating an agreement that's inconsistent with the other agreements. So we're making sure that they are running parallel with each other.
Okay. So to take this one bite of the apple at a time, maybe you can walk us through each of the pieces of direction that you need from us, and we can take, so if the first one is giving you authority to work through adjusting and modifying the existing agreement, then maybe that's what we should do. Is there board direction? Do we have direction to tell staff to go in and modify and be a part of updating the existing agreement, as Mr. Chipak just stated? Commissioner Zembauer.
The consultant's still doing the study on the transition portion, right, with?
On the transition study, the consultant is basically done. There was not a consensus that Lynx would be the operating entity. There was a presumption that Lynx would have been the operating entity, but the consultant is not finishing the report until they get a little bit more comfortable to put Lynx in as the operating entity for purposes of their drafting of the recommendations.
So we cannot give you any direction in that regard, if that's still an outstanding discussion point, or?
The way we were proposing to work around that is to make the presumption that Lynx is the operating entity. So we do the arm's length negotiations with Lynx to find out the terms of the operating agreement, what is necessary, what is essential to that agreement, and then if we can't reach terms with Lynx, the operation and the negotiations that we have had are still very valuable, because any operating agreement with any operating entity would still need to address those same terms.
So to Commissioner Lockhart's point, can you, are there 3 points you need direction on, 1 point, 5 points, 8 points, that we can maybe help move?
Well, that's what I just tried to do. So I said, let's start with the first one. So I asked if there was consensus from the board to give staff direction to move forward with modifying and updating the existing agreement.
But and my answer would be yes, but we don't know what the agreement is. It sounds like they don't have.
We won't know.
We're not authorizing what the terms of the agreement are. We're authorizing a move forward to have them work on the terms of the agreement. So my answer to that question is yes, because we'll never know what the terms of the agreement are going to be if we don't work on it. And quite honestly, if we don't lean in and start working on it, they're just going to do it without us.
Right.
We're one of, how many did you identify?
5. And I thought we were already working on the agreement.
There's 1 of 5.
Are we not already working on the agreement?
We are working on
That's what I
the
thought.
agreement.
That's the whole purpose of the team.
But the reason why this has come here publicly is because our board has been identified along with Volusia County, as the only other entity that has not given clear direction to our team when they come to the table to have these conversations. So we are having a public conversation to give our staff the direction that is needed so that they have the support of this board to move forward and participate. So if we want to have a voice at the table, we need to give some direction. That's what I'm asking. That's what Paul is asking for. That's what the county manager and the secretary of DOT is asking for.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you. It's the reason why I talked about the 1 year after the completion, which should be in May. In order to put this full agreement together, it'll take about 12 months. Is that correct, Paul? That's what I've been told.
The schedule that has been proposed to us as the working staffs collectively is much shorter than that. It's
Okay.
anticipated that this agreement will come back to you in the early spring.
So Commissioner,
Well, that's news to me, because the last time we...
Commissioner
Split it up.
Hurt, I'm trying to,
I'm going to take it a little deeper. So I think we have, I think what we're trying to do is give direction beyond what the direction is being asked. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the direction, I hear that you disagree, but I'm going to finish. So I think that now is not, and I'm going to ask you to confirm this, now is not necessarily the time to give specifics around what should be negotiated. Now is the time to give direction to say, we do want our team at the table, and we want them sharing points that we may make. I'm going to leave that for a separate item. So the answer to, yes, we want you to move forward, and we want you to be at that table negotiating, and we are expecting this to move forward in some form or fashion. Can we, without adding any layers of complexity to that, do we all agree on that piece? Commissioner Zimbauer, you said you already thought they were doing it.
Well, I completely understand what you're trying to arrive at, and I don't disagree. I have a core principle. I have no problem negotiating, but I'd like to know what the points of negotiation are. And what I'm hearing from you is, let them go negotiate, but no direction as to what we're negotiating about.
That's not what
That's
you're
not-
hearing from me,
no.
because I
Okay.
haven't finished. I'm asking if we agree on that piece.
I think we've already authorized them. They've been going to these meetings, unless
Well,
one of you are going to tell me.
Our partners are not clear on that, so they've asked
Well,
us to clarify. So let's just humor them.
And I
are we willing to
understand.
clarify?
Right, I mean, I'm happy to clarify. There was no understanding on my behalf, unless others, that we were not talking with our partners and negotiating. Now, we may be at odds at what they believe should happen. That's different than not being at the table and negotiate. I'm sorry about all that. But if Paul, you're telling me we're just showing up and everybody's like, hey, you guys have no authority to negotiate, to talk about anything.
no, it's not the other team, it's our team. Our team is saying that we have not given them, from their perspective, the direction to have a voice at that table.
Okay, then I'm going to disagree, because we actually made a motion, and I clarified it not just with one county attorney, but two county attorneys, that we authorize our staff
To modify
to
the agreement.
negotiate with all funding partners that are involved with Sunrail and bring back an agreement with us at a later date. We made that motion.
That's my
We can ask the
recollection.
clerk to read it back, if she can check the records. I don't know when it was, but it was at least 2 meetings ago. We did make that motion. I made the motion. It was seconded by who, I don't know. It was passed unanimously, and we re-verified it for clarification purposes. We have given our staff full authority to negotiate that agreement in this board meeting. Not this one, but in this board chambers. We have done that.
That's where I'm lost, and we gave direction a year, 18 months ago. And I've had briefings, my office had briefings at least 2 or 3 times in the last 18 months and talking about different points and so forth. And that's why I'm somewhat perplexed, and I totally get it. But I want to make sure that we're all clear, that we all have one core understanding. There was a comment made earlier that all partners have to be in agreement. that's fine, but there's one government agency here that has veto power, who's already shown us that they're going to exercise it, and that is the Florida Department of Transportation, who's told Volusia, you're either on board or you're not. We'll just take it out of your 5-year work program. They're going to tell us the same thing. So at the end of the day, you're negotiating against ourselves. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what our staff does, in my opinion, because FDOT's going to be done, call it a day. You're finished.
Commissioner Constantine?
Thank you. So it's great that we have such a good relationship with Jared Perdue, because it seems that you're saying that he's going to be the dictator on this. But, I'm looking at the next steps here, and I can see the confusion of everybody. And the next steps just say concurrence from DOT, concurrence from Central Florida, CRC, and direct staff to develop the following: operation phasing agreement, interlocal governance agreement revisions, and pre-transition action items. I don't see any meat to that. I see very general, and I guess I need to ask Paul, what exactly are you asking us to do?
At this point, I was merely making a statement and confirming that the direction that we had previously received is still the direction you want us to go. Because
Yes.
as we go further into these negotiations, things get more granular.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that there's no misconception that our negotiations are divergent from what your understanding of where we are going are.
Okay, and so since I still have the floor, so now we've got at least what you're asking us to do. And I think that in all different ways, we're saying, yes, continue to proceed on these negotiations, continue to proceed on the way that the motion that Commissioner DeLore had brought up before is. And when you see that that needs, there is some diversion from that, come back and work with us and let us know so that we can continue to be informed and also direct and what we feel is important.
Understood, because last time when Commissioner DeLore did make that motion and the board voted on it, we understood that, but we were also told to go meet with each of the commissioners individually, brief them. And then we've done that, and now this is the follow-up to say, again, our understanding is we have direction to go and negotiate on these points, and we were just confirming that with the board to make sure you are on the same page that staff is on.
So let
I
me ask
move a
you,
motion to direct staff to continue to work with our partners and bring us back whatever additional information they need to do.
Well, now that we know what you want, I think that that's appropriate.
Second. I think he just made a motion.
No, I won't do that.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to call the question.
Did you just make a motion or make a call the question?
You can just call the question.
So let's make sure that Kyla has the motion exactly as it was stated, because go ahead, Commissioner Zembauer, if you would, and restate the motion.
Motion to give staff direction and supporting them to continue to negotiate with our partners and return back to us whatever information they glean from the continued negotiations.
There was a second.
And then there was a second. Before I call the vote, is there any input or anything that our county attorney or county manager?
The only input, before I know Kate's going to jump in, that I was going to say the same thing, is that as we go through this, we'll be bringing all that back and updating the board on each step of the process as we move through this.
Yeah, and we don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but immediately after the last board meeting, there were additional meetings with the steering group, and things do start to get more granular. We want to make sure that you understand we're going to need to be amending the existing operating documents with regard to the deficit numbers and continuing to negotiate with the presumption that Lynx is going to be the operating partner. So we didn't really get into that level of detail a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and so before we go off, in a direction that is not consistent with the board's consensus, we wanted to check back in.
Okay. We got a motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Sorry that was more painful than it should have been. So I'm not going to hear back from anybody else that Seminole County is the one that's holding up the works, right?
Well, I wouldn't go as far to say that, but.
Well, that's what I keep hearing, so we keep trying to fix what we keep hearing, so we'll...
Negotiate.
All right, do we have a county manager's report or county attorney? Oh, county attorney, anything else from the county attorney?
No.
Okay. County manager report?
Well, just two things. Well, on behalf of the 1,600 board employees, we want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, so we're going to leave this on a happy note. And we really support your actions this morning with the additional holiday time off. So I've gotten, just over lunch, I've just gotten inundated in thanking me and thanking the board. So thank you for that. Also, Mr. Chad Wilski is here. Chad, if you could stand up. He's our new director of fleet and facilities. Some of you already know him. As you know, we broke a few of these divisions out from Public Works and created a new department. Chad is leading that department. He started yesterday with us, so I just wanted to welcome him aboard as well.
Welcome, Chad.
Thank you.
Welcome. You and I are going to spend some time together.
I'll buy you the beers.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Just, Madam Chair, just so Chad knows, we have a lot of work to be done here with mental health, so I'm sure you're going to...
Good thing we funded that for the sheriff. We can go check in.
So moving on to district commissioner reports, our first one is District 3.
All righty, thank you very much. Just wanted to congratulate our own county for being part of the Operation Greenlight for veterans. Saw the beautiful green lights in the pictures. That's just wonderful. Thank you very much for that. I know that all our veterans would have appreciated that. I was so excited, and I just want you to know I attended our fire department in Station 12, their life-saving award, and to have the individual there that they say this is the end of October, that they saved the life. She was actually, they had to bring her back from death, and it was just, just to see the love from all of it. And it was also the City of Altamont Springs Police Department was part of that, and it was just a wonderful event. And I always enjoy going to those because it just shows how much the firefighters and, of course, other public service folks are doing for our community. I attended, and I'm not going to say a whole lot other than it was a wonderful event, because I think that maybe Commissioner Herr would like to say it, but the Rotary Club of Lake Mary's 50th anniversary, what a great club, and they really had a lot of fun. On the November 9th, there was a lot of things going on that are from our philanthropic groups that do so much for community, two of which we have supported in the past. I was able to make it to both of them. The Lifeboat Project did their annual event, and so did Allie's Hope at Crane's Roost. I don't know if we're going to have the opening for the zoo Asian Lantern on the 16th, but with the weather. But I do want to say that that's coming up, and it's always a great event and a big fundraiser for the zoo. The Rotary Club of Seminole County South is doing their Arts, Crafts, and Wine Festival this 18th and 19th at Crane's Roost, and I will be speaking at the annual meeting of the Lake Brantley Lake Management Group. They have like 8 different homeowners associations as part of that, and they've asked me to talk about what the lake situation in Seminole County and others. On the 21st, I will also be with Christian and Chris at Grace Road and that community, trying to figure out how we can do their ongoing concerns about traffic, speeding, and so that should be a lot of fun. And I also wanted to ask Kate, as I've got our county attorney, Kate, over the years, this group, sometimes with full, sometimes partial, had our ethics program in early December. I don't know if that's happening again. I just want to know as to whether I have to make other arrangements to do my ethics for the year.
I think that's yet to be determined. I was going to speak to each of you on if you're relying on the county attorney's office to assist with that. I know in years past, there's been a presentation put on. We've had a couple members of the board appear or attend. So I'm open to discussing that with you.
Well, we don't have any more meetings until near, the mid-December?
December 12th.
And I know we can do it online, but I just want to just want to know, what my options are. So thank you very much. I think, if we could get together offline, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And then I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
District 5.
All right, I'll try to make this quick, but I have 10 items on the list. And I'm not normally the one that does that. Congratulations on the Midway Park renovation. It is really, it happened fast. It's beautiful. We had a whole community event out there, including a lot of folks from Midway Elementary, so that was pretty cool. And it's fun to go out and act like a kid at an event and then have pictures that remember it forever, so. I did attend on October 27th, the 30th anniversary of HSN, so that's the Homeless Services Network luncheon down in Orlando with a few of our team members, and they had some inspirational stories of folks that have actually conquered living without shelter and have moved on and are working and told their stories. It was really worthwhile attending. I hesitate to bring this up given the previous conversation, but on a good note, ridership for Lynx is up, and it is the highest it's ever been on Saturdays and Sundays. And Orange County has put in a significant amount of funding for a commitment to increased routes. So when you hear about increased routes, that is the funding partner where it's happening that is funding it. That is not us. I want to thank Darren and Chris for attending the November 1st Markham Woods Homeowners Association meeting. We had, I'm going to guess, 150 or so people in attendance. It was a really well-attended meeting, and we had a really good discussion. Sheriff was also there and presented. And I got the dubious honor to present right after he spoke for about an hour.
Oh, jeez.
And so that was fun.
Been there, done that.
And you did a great job.
Yeah. I attended the Seminole County Public Schools Foundation's Night of Impact, which was the most raised ever since that event has started. Now, that event has only been in place for 2 years, but prior to that, it was Arts Alive. And it is an event that funds for unrestricted spending for things that taxpayer dollars don't pay for in the school district. The Rotary Club of Lake Mary, 50 years old, does throw a heck of a party. We did thoroughly enjoy ourselves, and it is an awesome group, and I might be a little bit biased because my husband is a member there, and I'm a frequent flyer there. Always nominated to be on the cleanup committee, and I did speak about that a little bit because that does seem to be somehow what my kids and I get signed up for. But we are highly qualified to do that, and we do it well. City of Sanford had their Veterans Day event, and oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. Our veterans.
Alton?
Yes. I'm sorry?
Althouse?
Althouse.
Althouse.
Did an amazing job. He really did an amazing job, and it was a great event. Very, very moving. I want to point out that we've all been solicited through a lobbying organization, and I know Alan has sent out emails about this, but the way that that is playing out in the public is really bothersome to me, and it is a solution in search of a problem. They are trying to make sure that we are euthanizing a minimum number of animals every year, and we are already doing that. So their representation of this issue is really bothersome to me. I have not met with them yet, but I will meet with them. And when you break down the numbers, we all are already euthanizing 0 for breed type and 0 for space. We do, however, allow owners to bring in animals that are at the end of life so that they can efficiently have that dog or cat or any other sort of animal pass on without a vet bill that a family can't afford, which may cause them to take measures that are not necessarily humane. So we are above and beyond on this already. I love what the organization is doing where it needs to be done. So I'll just leave it at that. I personally would tell you that it has, Bryant's ethics training was humorous and all of that good stuff, but it takes a considerable amount of your staff time to deliver that and build it and work through it. And I would tell you that we have a lot of work to do, and a lot of our staff feels compelled to go sit in the room for that duration of that training, and because we're there, so there's a pressure point there that is created that is not necessarily efficient or effective. A lot of us take that training through other venues and vehicles for the other boards that we sit on as well, and I am happy to do that to put efficiency back into the operation. And I know more about baseball than I ever wanted to know in the past. And then I also want to say, before I make this appointment, that I loved Dominique's email. I think I just freaked Dominique out. I loved your email about the new methodology for appointing to boards, where it comes, it's on the consent agenda, it's vetted through a centralized location so that we're not up here trying to figure it out. Hats off, I thought that was a great process improvement, but it's not ready yet, so I move to appoint Brenda Urias to the Tourism Development Council with an effective date of 11/16/2023 through 12/31 of 2024, replacing Elizabeth Brown, who resigned.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Before I call for a vote, I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot because I have an appointment to the TDC as well. Oh, it's replacing Eric Ducharme. Never mind, we're not.
They're both
I was afraid
correct.
we were going to be duplicating efforts. Got it. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
See, that would have all been worked out had
Right,
in the new
exactly.
process.
Yep.
We're
I
still
thought it was
working
pretty
on
cool.
that. It's almost
Still
done.
working on it.
We're almost done.
I loved it. I don't know. It's a weird thing to get excited about, but this has been a struggle since I got here.
Is that all you have?
That is all I have.
Okay, District 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This past weekend, the great women of Oviedo had, with their women's club, had Great Day in the Country. It is their 49th year of having Great Day in the Country. For those who may not know, 100% of their proceeds goes back into the community, either in schools or other charitable organizations, and it's in the thousands of dollars each year. This year is their 49th year. Next year will be their 50th. I've asked them to submit so that we can do a resolution or proclamation for their 50th year. I think the ladies there have done a phenomenal job over the years, and that's just, the 49 years is just for Great Day in the Country. They've been around for over 100 years. I mean, it's truly amazing what those ladies have done over the decades. And the amount of people that were there this past Saturday was amazing. And hats off to all their hard work. It's amazing the hard work that those ladies put to put that show on, not show, but an event on. It takes them all year, and it shows all their hard work and their dedication. I too had the ability to meet with Best Friends Animal Society, Commissioner Herr, and I know that they've launched their program called Change Save Seminole. And in my conversation with Alan, he did present this document that we are at 0 or 100%, whichever way you want to look at it. In my conversations with them, the Best Friends Animal Society, they wanted a commitment from the county that would be at least 90%. I'm glad that we're at 100%. So we exceed their expectations, and I'm glad that we're able to do that. This document was given to us on Thursday from Alan. There is a gentleman here in the audience. I did introduce him to the county manager, and they both agreed to talk because, as we all know, we do pride ourselves on being the best of the best, and our staff has taken that with the no-kill shelter, and they are definitely helping our four-legged friends and other friends that are of the animal persuasion in all of Seminole County. Well, I mean, there could be birds, there could be all
Two-legged,
kinds.
yeah.
There could be two-legged.
I just wasn't sure what we were
Three-legged?
changing and what we were saving.
No, but I mean,
Because-
Alan and his group
What are
do
we
a
changing?
phenomenal job on so many different levels, and I compliment and applaud every one of them, as well as all the volunteers that make it happen throughout the year, especially when there are so many trying times when things do happen, that they all have to put in a lot of extra effort. We hear about that so many times. We may not say thank you enough, and I just want to say thank you. We all say thank you to Alan and his team. They do a phenomenal job time and time again. Over the past week or so, I did see Commissioner Constantine at Annunciation Fall Festival. It was great to see you there. I was with Father Ivan in one of the booths there. It was truly another great event. I guess this is the season for events, as well as Allie's Hope. They did a great job, and I know that one of our staff members was helping to auction off a little dog. And to see that dog so well behaved and so well taken care of was truly amazing. Almost looked as if it was not real, but it was real, how well it was behaved. Again, we keep on hearing about all the life-saving things that our firefighters and our paramedics do. Hats off to all of them. I wish there was a way to actually recognize them all on an annual basis, because they just truly all do such a phenomenal job, Chief. The training that you and your staff do really shows that Seminole County really cares and really goes the extra mile. So, Chief, please tell your staff it goes noticed, and thank you. I also want to congratulate Ms. Johnson for her birthday that she had the other day. I'm not going to give you the number because that'd be impolite.
39.
Okay. It's a great number, but happy birthday, Trish Johnson, for...
It's not hers.
Whatever. I'm just wishing her happy birthday. She's the one putting the number to it. And again, I'd be remiss by saying I want to wish everyone, this is definitely a time of year to spend time with your families and give thanks for all the things that we've been given grace to have over, and spend time with your families and friends and the people that we love and care for. So everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. End of my report.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish I could say I'd be brief, but I'll try to get through some of this quick as I can. Allie's Hope, they raised over $100,000. Fantastic
Great
stuff. Invitation, you heard earlier, Lake Dot, the grand opening, Sunday United States, weather permitting, 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning at the Pavilion at 100 Lake Dot Drive, for any of those that want to attend. Of course, the Orlando Sanford Airport Air Show, as you all know, was October 28th, 29th. We don't always understand what that is other than air show, so I want to share some stats real quick with you, just to give you what kind of exposure Seminole County and Sanford and area received. And the total national TV audience was 10,759,000 people that watched that air show. About $1.9 million worth of publicity were created over that just in TV. 333,000 radio listeners, 442,000 social media followers. It was a great event. It was sold out on Saturday. Sunday was close to being sold out for those who made it. I think you enjoyed a good air show. That is going to be coming up next year instead in April. By the way, it's not going to be in the fall. It's going to be in April. And it's going to be the Blue Angels instead of the Thunderbirds. Wow. So things are going to be switched up again for next year. Everybody was forwarded a copy from my office of an email from Gary Huttman at MPO, just so everybody knows they've requested, when we have the opportunity, and we can, because they're having trouble on some getting quorums for some of the meetings, so for what that's worth. I also have multiple appointments to make, if you all would bear with me. I would like to make a motion to reappoint Janine Ellison for a 2-year term to the Library Board on 1/4/24.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Herr.
I thought you could do them all at one time.
Yeah.
I was trying not to confuse Dominique, but I can do it all
I
at
don't
one
think
time.
Dominique's the one that's been confused, for the record.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's sometimes what the motion is supposed to be doesn't match what it is, and that's how we kind of got out of whack.
Okay.
And so go for it.
Okay.
And then maybe
We'll cross-reference.
maybe you'd be gracious enough that if some of
My
them don't
office
quite
will do it,
match up, maybe Dominique could have the opportunity, we can come back and do a tweak,
If need be.
if need be.
Yep, Library Board, Janine Ellison, 2-year term, 1/4/24. Animal Control, Mr. Brian Wilson for a 2-year term, beginning at 1/1/24. Contractor Examiners, John Egger for a 1-year term, beginning 1/1/24. Planning and Zoning, Richard German for a 4-year term on 1/1/24. Lourdes Aguiar to a 4-year term on Planning and Zoning on 1/1/24.
So, Mr. Zembauer, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, there is an appointment in that mix that I'm not comfortable with, and so if you're doing this as a slate,
Well, just tell me which one you want me to take out.
Richard German.
Okay, I can take them out.
Okay,
Happy to make a separate motion on that.
okay.
Seminole County Port Authority, Matt Criswell for a 3-year term beginning 1/1/24.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Zembauer for all of them, except for Richard German, who he's doing separately, seconded by Commissioner Delary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Now I'll go back for an appointment of Richard German to a 4-year term on 1/1/24 for Planning and Zoning.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Zembauer, second by Commissioner Delary, and I will not be in support of that motion because of the multiple communications that we've had from the public about his demeanor on the board, and I feel that there may be some conflicts, and so I can't support that.
Understood.
Well, and I would agree. I have not dealt with the conflicts, but I would say that this is a representation to the public that's a reflection on us, and we all know how hard it is not to get heated in these discussions, and we work really hard at doing that, and we do a really good job at that. So to have it sort of go off the rail in other committees that are acting on our behalf worries me.
Sure. Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, all those opposed say no.
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2.
Also move a motion to send Mr. Walter Grundoff a letter of appreciation for serving on Planning and Zoning.
Second.
Motion and a second for letter of appreciation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And I think that wraps up my report. I think everything else in District 2 is perfect.
All right. I have one appointment to make, and it is also on the TDC, replacing Eric Ducharme. I'll be appointing Josh Gunderson, who is from the Oviedo Mall. He and I had a lovely conversation where he explained to me why the Oviedo Mall is considered an attraction.
What was his explanation? I'd love to hear it.
Dillard's.
I'd like to hear that, too.
Dillard's Purse Department.
They're having so many activities and events, and it's amazing how many people they bring in there they're repurposing the mall. And so he convinced, and Guy Cunha told me he was a great person, and that he was really going to be a great addition. So yeah, if Guy vouches for him, no, he really is very impressive. I think you all will enjoy getting to meet him.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Second.
I didn't know if I needed to do a sales pitch or not.
No, I was just
There's a
curious.
motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I'm curious how it was going to be an attraction.
I know. That was how I opened the conversation. I'm like, tell me why the Oviedo Mall's an attraction again? Passing out this letter of support that was requested for the NCAA for the NCAA to host their tennis championships here at San Lando Park again for 26 and 28. We were on a time crunch to get this done, so I went ahead and had it drafted and signed it with your consensus that will go back to Danny Trossett for submission.
Motion to approve to be sent on behalf of the chair.
Motion by Commissioner Zembauer, second by Commissioner Herr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your willingness to do that on the fly. As you all know, we hosted the Seminole County Legislative Delegation meeting here a couple of weeks ago. It was a huge success, lots of people in attendance. I'm always so glad that we were able to offer our space to the delegation. Somehow we need to communicate, though, for future that Tricia Johnson is not the administrative support for that delegation meeting, because poor thing, she gets dragged into everything that goes on for that meeting. But lots of different members of the public with their various appeals to the delegation, and it was well done.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
Because I wasn't here and I had other commitments. Was my understanding that Marion County showed up to discuss a request for a priority for an ME's office?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I heard that right.
It did.
Okay.
We can send you the video clip if
Thank
you'd
you.
like to watch that.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
Madam Chairman, were they not supposed to do that?
No, it's just interesting.
Okay.
It's not normal.
It was
Right.
it was an out of
Out of character.
normal for sure.
They have their own delegation.
We, I think the explanation that was given is that because we are part of that ME circuit, then this delegation would not have heard their pitch. They felt that it was worth the drive down here to talk to them.
And I think Broder informed them that he was fully aware of it. It's my understanding.
Don't remember. To go back and watch it. There were a lot of things that were
Sure.
out of form.
Right.
And yeah. So also attended the Night of Impact for the Seminole County Public Schools Foundation. What Commissioner Herr neglected to tell you is that there was one table in the entire ballroom that was the special table, and it was a drawing that if you won the drawing, you got to sit at this table that had upgraded appetizers and a beautiful centerpiece. And so we all know how much Commissioner Herr loves to be the center of attention, and wound up sitting in the middle of the event for the entire event.
It was referred to as the party table. She's being gracious. It was the party table. And
There were more empty bottles of wine on that table than any other table in the room. It was great. Everybody had a great time. The talent that was exhibited by the Seminole County Public School students that performed was absolutely exceptional. We have so much to be proud of. It was really great. So our deputy county manager's birthday was on, Krisha, you are well loved, because there were a lot of other birthdays in this county. Alan Harris had a birthday, Deborah Schaefer had a birthday, Allison Thal had a birthday this last weekend. So anybody in the entire cadre of 1,400, 1,600 Seminole County employees who had a birthday since our last county commission meeting, happy birthday. Commissioner Constantine had a birthday.
That's right.
39.
39.
For the 40th time.
All the birthdays.
Again?
I will be going on a field trip along with Mr. Gray and some other employees down to Cherry Lake, which is in Lake County. They are, the owners of Cherry Lake are a fundamental key component to the outside collaborative that I keep talking to you all about. And I'm hoping that we can start to develop a relationship with them so that we might be a really good local government partner as some of these conversations move forward with looking at policy pilots and things like that.
Madam Chair, if you
Yes.
haven't been there, and anybody else, they're having, every Saturday, they're having like in the country now, and picking your own tangerines and everything, but if you haven't been to that farm, it's amazing. It really is. You'll love it.
I'm excited to see the demonstration gardens of native plants and the things that they're doing to help lessen the need for water being poured in the ground. As you all know, Election Day was December 7th. I have participated in multiple canvassing board meetings. There will be another one tomorrow at 10 a.m. where we perform the manual audit of one of the precincts that was selected out, like pull a rabbit out of a hat. I would like for the county attorney at some point and the county manager to talk with us about the possibility of adopting as a part of our administrative code how this board handles the canvassing board. Because absent direction from this board, it's just kind of, this is what we do. And I think in the past, because we have had a supervisor of elections that just, Mike Ortell did things a certain way, Sandy Gord, all of the prior supervisors of elections, there's an opportunity for more folks to participate and for us to be taking on a role that would probably be appropriate if we can put it in writing what this board does. So if
I
there's,
support that.
okay, so there's consensus from the board to start formulating an amendment to the code. The firefighters, we talked about firefighters a little bit. They are having a toy drive on December 1st at Friendly Confines in Lake Mary. So if you have some toys that you would like to bring by for children in Seminole County, I know that they would love to see you, and the kids would appreciate the toys. There is a Florida Association of Counties legislative conference that starts tomorrow in Tampa. There are some other meetings that go on as well. I will be leaving for Tampa after the canvassing board meeting. We'll be there for a day and a half or so, and we'll have any updates for you all there on any of the policies and things that are discussed. And I don't know, Commissioner Constantine, if you're going or not, but yep. And I think our Kate and Tricia will also be great. So we'll be well represented. That concludes my report. I want to thank you all for your support this last year. Being chairman, all of you who have served as chairman in the past know that you never know what you're going to get. Being chairman is a little bit like a box of chocolates, and this year was no exception. And so I appreciate immensely the way that this board has operated, and even in the face of some challenges, I think we've represented our community very well. And thank you all very much for the work that you do.
And I'd like to take a moment and thank Chairman Lockhart for her leadership in onboarding a new county manager and a new county attorney, the two key positions in our county. It was a struggle, and now they've got their feet wet, and thank goodness for good staff that we had here that kept things moving along until Mr. Gray and Ms. Latore got on board, and of course, the chair lady helping make sure everybody felt comfortable and getting people in the right place speaks a lot for trying to get things moving. So thank you.
And Madam Chair, I'd also like to compliment you on not only your directness, but your sense of humor and your ability to steer us over the past number of months. I know it's not an easy task, and you're up for the task, so I want to compliment you for that.
Thank you.
Well done.
I appreciate that very much. Commissioner Herr.
I would also say it's interesting because we're all thinking the same thing. It's the onboarding of new talent and then the changing of the organizational structure and keeping us on track. I've only been through 3, but the way you conduct the meetings is appreciated. Certainly, I've paid really close attention. I actually think we behaved better for Commissioner Lockhart than we did for you, Bob, or for you, Lee. I can't explain that, but that's on us, too. So we have to maintain our good behavior with the next transition. But I truly do appreciate not only the way we've stepped into line, but I've heard it from the public as well that they appreciate the meetings better, that we have input is input, and we're listening to it. And so it's just been a really good way to get us recalibrated. It was really hard for you all because, we were coming out of this post-COVID environment where we just weren't normal yet, and I feel like you got us back to normal. And so that was not an easy feat.
I appreciate all that. I did neglect to say one thing during my chairman's report, and that is the annual review for the county manager and the county attorney. We have it in both of their contracts that one will be done. The last time we did one was 2020. I know.
We weren't here.
They weren't here.
You guys were fabulous, by the way, wherever you were.
The metrics that were chosen by the board at that time may not be the metrics that we want to use moving forward. So I have provided both of them copies of what we used in the past, and just so that there is something that is done before this year end and the end of my term, what I've asked them to do, and I think they already have, is write down what they've already accomplished, which is amazing, the things that they have already accomplished in such a short period of time, and what some of their goals are, and to just run them so that we can start off this new, with the new chairman, with kind of a level set. And then I will just write a few sentences, maybe a paragraph, and you all are welcome to do the same, however you would choose to do that, just so that there is something on record that there was a conversation about an evaluation of some sort. And then the next chairman we can decide what we want to do moving forward.
Madam
Commissioner
Chairman,
Clark,
I
yeah.
also sat down with both county attorney, county manager, and reviewed them both. I think they both did a phenomenal job this past year. This is one of the few times that we actually have these conversations about them. And I really think that the level of expertise that they brought to this county and the changes that they've made does go noticed, and we should, I think that we should somehow address their compensation. I don't know if we're prepared to do that today, but I think that it would behoove us to do that. And didn't know if you want that in the form of a motion, or if you want to have more time to
I
think
think
about it.
it's already in the
It's in the
contract, so
contract.
that was done on.
No, it's not. It's not.
So let's take that up with the new chairman.
It's not in the contract. Because I have the contract right here.
Yeah.
One of them or both of them?
They're both very similar.
I have not reviewed those in a hot minute, and I don't feel comfortable doing that on the fly. I don't know if either of you are okay. It's not a slight, certainly.
It should be somewhat structured and
Yeah.
anticipated.
Yeah.
I know we talked about, in here, it talks about reviewing in October, bringing it back in November.
It does call for October of '23 for
And that's
Mr.
why
Gray.
I'm bringing it up.
Yep.
Both of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Not you, but county manager, county attorney.
Yep.
And so
They just started.
They just started.
They just started. They just started.
I have no problem waiting for whoever the new county, what call it, chairman is, but I think that it should be addressed, because I think that they're both doing a very good job.
They are both doing an excellent job. Yes. All right. Yeah, I know, right?
Agreed.
All right. So I will, that's it. That's the end of my district report and chairman's report. And we have public comment. Is there anyone here who has filled out a form to address the board? Anyone who neglected to fill out a form who would like to address the board? All right, we'll close public comment. Moving on to the board reorganization, I'm going to pass the gavel that doesn't exist. There's a gavel around here somewhere.
There used to be.
There used to be. I don't know where it is. To our county attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, as you all know, and I guess for the benefit of the public, the board's operating policies and procedures require the board to elect a chairman and a vice chairman every year at your first meeting in November. In a moment, I will open the floor to nominations. A commissioner can nominate themselves. They can nominate another commissioner. Nominations do not require a second. Once we have all the nominations, I'll close the floor to nominations, and if there's more than one nomination, we will take a vote in the order they are received, and the first person to receive a majority vote in favor of that person will be elected chair. And then we can go through the same process for vice chairman, and I can pass the gavel to the new chair, or I can conduct the election for the vice chair as well, whatever the pleasure of the chair is. So are there any questions about the process?
No questions, but I'd like to nominate Jay Zimbauer for chair.
Any additional nominations?
I'd like to make a motion to close nominations.
Second is not required for that motion, so the floor is closed to nominations. All in favor of Commissioner Zimbauer as chairman, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Commissioner Zimbauer, chairman.
Thank you, I think. So I got one big question. Does somebody know something about a pandemic about to break out?
Please, no.
No.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the confidence of the vote from all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Herr, for that nomination. And I'm fine if the county attorney wants to proceed with vice chair.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the floor to nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Andrew Hurst for vice chair.
We have to close nominations?
Okay, floor is closed to nominations for vice chair. All in favor of Commissioner Herr as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, Commissioner Herr.
Well, thank you.
You got my back, Darrell?
I'm going to keep you in line, darling.
Perfect. We're going to get along just fine.
Oh, yeah.
If the sentence starts with yo, you're in trouble.
Thank you. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one thing that I would like you to take up, or that we need to take up.
Okay.
So tomorrow is the last day of the canvassing board for this round of elections. I am
Yes.
no longer the chairman of the county commission serving on the canvassing board.
You have to appoint him.
I would ask the county attorney, is it acceptable that we request Commissioner Lockhart to continue since she has started? I hate switching horses halfway
Right.
through the race.
So technically, the statute requires that the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners serve on the canvassing board, and if you are not willing or able to serve, that you appoint another member of the board. So what we need essentially is you to approve of Commissioner Lockhart to continue on the canvassing board for this election.
So
It's your choice
Since I have
alone.
a scheduled 6-hour deposition tomorrow, I am unable to serve, and I would request that my fellow board members support Commissioner Lockhart continuing instead of where she's already at in my absence.
And I'm happy to do it.
And it is your appointment,
Yeah.
not the board's.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I
Right.
appreciate
It's a
that.
technicality,
Absolutely.
but I didn't want her to get there tomorrow and there
And
be an
there be
issue.
a
so.
thing.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
then I would just say, just because of the conversations and things that are going on with that whole, the canvassing board issue, if we could make it a priority to get whatever needs to be in place, because the presidential preference primary will be upon us before we know it. So however, whatever that movement looks like going forward.
Yes, and I think that's sooner rather than later, we didn't understand legally from the county attorney where we need to be in that whole process before we get there.
Agreed.
So, good.
One last thing before we
Commissioner.
close out. I know that we gave all of the kudos to Chairman Lockhart for the great job that she did. She's talking out there, but I'm going to give great kudos to Miss Nancy Irish. Because we wouldn't have Chairman Lockhart if it weren't for you. So thank you for giving her to us.
Oh, 39.
Code of conduct.
Oh, yes, we do. So, yes, my mother is here. She's so sweet. She's my biggest fan, and as you all will remember, this time last year, we weren't sure that my mom was going to be here this time this year. So for all of you who prayed for her and kept our family in your thoughts, we are really grateful. And our dear friend and neighbor, Bev Mason, is here with her as well. We've got a great community, so thanks for being here.
And where did Tim get off to?
Tim had a conference call. Tim brought the roses and left.
I was going to say.
He's home complaining about something.
So, Chairman?
Yes.
You're still the chair.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah, the policies and procedures say that the new chairmanship takes over at the conclusion of this meeting, so the next meeting. So you'll still sign all of the documents for this meeting, and
Okay.
we need to approve number 39.
yeah, we've got 39 still on the agenda. So item number 39 is affirmation of the standards of conduct. And this is something that is in our admin
So moved.
code.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Constantine, second by Commissioner Delary. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Awesome. Thank you for catching that.
We're a team.
All right. Now I believe we are done. If there is nothing else to come before the board, we'll be adjourned at 3:33.